Hey, I got something to say. Woo, woo. I am so excited to bring on my next guest. Natalie and I have recorded for Let's Keep It Real, and I just fell in love with her and her mission and what she wants to do in the world. And I thought, man, ladies, we got to bring this woman in. We just have to bring her in. I was sitting there thinking about all the different things that I could do to get involved in my community. Like, I really miss mentoring young people now that I don't own my gyms. And I came across Natalie and I thought, what the heck? This is freaking awesome. It's awesome. And I have to bring her not only I'm waving at people. Sorry. I'm getting distracted. I see that Natalie has waved to me, but I haven't seen she requested in. So we might have to go back out and come back in, which I've done before. No worries, Natalie. So I'll see if she requests in. And if not, then I will go and make sure we set that up. So what are you guys up to? What are you doing? How's your week? How's your Labor Day? Did you get to hang out with friends? Did you? Family? Did you go to the shore or did you just barbecue? We just hung out with friends. Excited. This will be awesome. Woo! See, that's why I love live.
That's awesome.
Things go always perfect. That would be boring, Natalie.
I'm pushing the request button. I'm pushing it and it's waving at you. I'm like, no. Yeah. I feel
Well,
like
you gotta like the internet time.
I feel like my mother-in-law is taking a picture of other people and it's in selfie mode. But yes, here I am.
Thank you. Natalie, I can't wait for your Let's Keep It Real podcast to come out. I had a blast yesterday.
Me too. We had such a nice conversation. And you know what I love too? We couldn't see each other, so this is fun. But it feel like this really deep, meaningful conversation with somebody that we used to have on the phone, right? When we couldn't actually see each other's faces. But I loved it.
Yeah, those days. That's right.
We never talk on the phone anymore, but thank you so much for inviting me. That was really awesome. And I love being here with you today. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, we got a lot to cover in a short period of time, but before we get into it, let me read your bio. Natalie is an author, speaker, nonprofit founder, and passionate advocate for family and youth service. She has written 2 books. By the way, I was reading your book earlier. I love it. Simple Acts, The Busy Family's Guide to Giving Back, and Simple Acts, The Busy Teen's Guide to Making a Difference. Love it, by the way. I can so relate to the teens. It was so funny, which was published in July. Natalie is New York representative of Doing Good Together. Stronger Together, baby. A national nonprofit that helps parents raise kids who care and contribute and is a member of several philanthropic giving circles. So let's just get right into it. And I got hammered right before you came on because I told my peeps about what we were going to talk about. And they do the same thing, and I know you hear it over and over. How the heck, with my teens' schedule, can I convince them they have time to volunteer?
Right. Well, I think I would start with the question of, what do you have time for? What do you make time for, right? We don't have time, we make time.
Yeah.
What do you prioritize? So that is work that I started talking about with my family book, which was for families with young children up to age like 10 or 12, which is we seem to have time for lots and lots and lots of things, right? For going for coffee at Starbucks, and we have time for all of the practices, and we have time for tutoring, and we have time for going out and hanging out with our friends, and we have time for everything. And so that shows you what we prioritize, right? There's that notion of if you want to know what someone values, take a look at their calendar and how they spend their time.
Ooh.
And so author Laura Vanderkam, who's written a bunch of books, and she has a quote that I use all the time, which is, instead of saying we don't have time for something, say that's not a priority for me or for us. And that really switches the narrative a little bit, right? That shows that we don't prioritize maybe serving others and being kind to others and taking care of our neighbor. But we do prioritize, soccer practice or something, which is important. I'm not disparaging any of the things that teens, children, adults, that we all do, the ways that we choose to spend our free time outside of school, outside of work. That being said, I think that the way to engage teens in this work is to encourage them to figure out the things that they're passionate about, that they love doing, that they enjoy doing, that they're good at, and then marrying that skill set or that joy or that fun thing that they love to do with an issue or a person that they want to. And then that's your sweet spot. And then it gives them some agency and some control over what kind of work they're doing in the community. And then I promise you, if they're doing stuff that they enjoy doing, if they're doing it with other people, perhaps with friends, that's also a social environment, they will want to continue to do it. And I would also add that doing it repeatedly, as we know, for habit formation is not, you don't do it one time and form a habit. You have to do something a number of times. Sticking to it, having a sense of responsibility, signing up in advance and saying, okay, someone's counting on me to show up. So I'm going to show up for 5 times, 6 times, once a week, once a month, whatever it is, and creating these habits around service. I think that that's really the most important thing. And at the end of the day, my belief is that when you do this work, you get so much back in return in terms of relationships and that great feeling, that helper's high that you get. I don't know why anyone wouldn't want to give that gift to their teens, especially now after this really challenging few years when mental health is really, everyone is really struggling.
Yeah. I'm sitting here smiling so big because I used to think years ago, now this is years ago, that if I was in service, it didn't matter if I enjoyed it, right? I was helping someone else, right?
Right.
And then I'm like, wait a minute, snap. I mean, there's a million ways to help people. And why don't I pick something that means something to me and I'm passionate about? Like, duh.
Right. Of course.
And that's what I loved. I'm going through, I love your book. I love the way it's done. And I'm thinking you even have an assessment in there.
Yes. Yeah, for kids to do, for teens, and frankly, adults could do it too, which really starts from the baseline. Like, what is it that you care about? What is it you're mad about? What are you worried about? What makes you curious? What makes you angry? And then separately, what do you enjoy doing? What are you good at? And I'm not talking about being, an Olympic swimmer or a concert pianist. I'm talking about, are you, very simple, very basic things. Is your handwriting really good? Are you super physically strong? Are you really patient? Do you love explaining technology to people? Could you explain technology to a senior citizen, an elderly person, so that they could actually FaceTime with their family? There's all these programs where young people teach older folks how to use their...
Oh, yeah.
Do you love to play basketball? Could you mentor young people and teach them the game of basketball, and maybe give kids an opportunity to hang out with older people and give them some skills and play? Find the thing that you're great at, or that your kid is great at, or that they just love doing. Is your daughter or son crafty? Do they knit? Do they paint? Do they sew? Every single thing, pretty much anything, you can figure out a way to share that gift, right, with others in a way that would be helpful or meaningful or just plain bring joy to someone else. And then the good feeling that you get back in return is, that's the magic. Yeah.
Well, I was sitting here. By the way, I use my kids' journal because that's how I think, and right before we came on, I was on a podcast and they were talking about, oh, if I only was as smart as this person, you know what I mean? If I was only as athletic or creative. And I'm like, wait a minute. That's exactly what you don't want to do, because everyone has unique issues to think of. And so in the front of the book, it has stuff that's like a great listener, love learning, mindful, funny, and animal lover. And there's like 100 of them. And it tells the kid to pick out, what are your top 5? And then I was looking at your book and I'm thinking, oh my God, I love this woman, because that's what she's doing. So not only are they helping others? But you're really helping them because they're realizing they do have unique gifts to offer the world.
Of course. I think self-confidence, right? Like the ability to recognize, I think a lot of people, unfortunately, are sort of self-deprecating like that. And that starts young with teens or with kids. You know, they have a sibling who's better at something that than they are. And then they were like, oh, well, she's better than me. I'm not as good at that. No, everyone has a gift to share. And it actually doesn't matter what it is, but just to recognize it in yourself. There's a gift to yourself. It's such a confidence boost, right? It's such an ego boost to say, I'm really good at that. And this person really appreciates, you know, the gifts that I'm able to share. Again, I think that our teens need these types of messages, and that comes from within. That's not as a parent or a caregiver or a mentor or an older adult saying, you're really good at this, or no, that has to come from inside of yourself. And so when you feel that agency and that self-actualization, right? Like, I have figured out the thing that I'm really good at that I love to share. I'm sharing it in a meaningful way, and this person is giving me this positive feedback. But it starts inside yourself, I think. And we all could use a little bit of this, right? We all talk bad about ourselves. I just launched my own podcast where I'm interviewing teens about their service, teen change makers. I'm so excited about it. And a few weeks ago, I had someone suggested it to me, and I was like, oh, I could never do that. No one wants to hear from me. There's so many. I said, what am I going to talk about? It's too much work. Guess what? Someone wants to hear from me. These teens' voices that I'm amplifying are so beautiful. I hope to inspire someone. If I inspire one person with this, I will feel so proud of myself. It's not that hard. It's worth the effort.
Absolutely.
It's worth whatever effort it is to expand my skill set, to stretch myself, to leap, and the net will appear. You know, all of these wonderful things. These are the types of life skills that we need to share with our teens, to give them the tools, right? To muscle through what is really challenging. Growing up is challenging, and college is challenging, and adulthood is challenging. So let's make it a little bit better for them by saying, figure out what your skill and your talent is, because you have one. So let's dig deep and figure out what it is. And then how can you share that with the world in a way that will make an impact? Even if it impacts one person, if it moves the needle a tiny bit, it will have made a difference.
So I'm getting people sending me emails with all, hold on here, people, with all their different kids' unique gifts. Right. And where could they put one? And one is their daughter loves to crochet.
There you go. Okay, so baby blankets for NICU patients, babies in the hospital, little lap blankets, which are not that hard to make. You know, my mom, who passed away in October, she was a crocheter. She would make those squares. So you can bang out a square real quick, and then you save those and then you put the squares together, and then you make a little lap blanket, which you can donate to your local nursing home or, social services for the elderly. We happen to live next door to a nursing home. So I have a knitter in my house. I have someone who likes to do fleece. You don't even need to knit or crochet. You can take fleece and cut it, make strips on the edges. If you've ever seen this, 2 pieces together, and then you tie knots all the way around, and you create this really soft blanket. You can also donate those to an animal shelter. They use those to line the crates for the animals so they're cozy at night. I mean, I could go on and on, but crocheting is absolutely, and it's something the child enjoys doing. She can do it while she's watching television or watching a movie or whatever on a rainy day, and then put together these blankets and deliver a bunch. I promise you the nursing home would be so happy to see her come in. And guess what? Maybe she could sit down and spend a few minutes with some of the elderly folks there who might want to talk to her about the crocheting and how she did it and where she goes to school. And I don't know, intergenerational volunteering is it's the absolute best. Everybody wins. The elderly person wins, the young person wins. It's gold. But anyway, yeah, there you go. You can. I
want to crochet. It's giving me a thing to crochet. No, I love that, and I love your enthusiasm. And I really, if anything that I want to make sure our listeners get today is everyone in some way has something to offer someone, and it will not only brighten up their day, but it'll change your life. Okay, let me just get this one in here. My son is 16. Okay. He wants to get involved, but he's there's like 14 extremely introverted. What could he do?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that is hard, and I know that dealing with new people and in new situations, it can be a little bit challenging. So if someone is super introverted and shy and doesn't know how to kind of put themselves out there, so I get that. There are things that you can do that are a little more solitary. I mean, crochet is certainly one of them, but online there are a number of virtual types of things. So he would not need to go out and kind of be face to face with someone. You know, a lot of virtual volunteering really sprang up over the pandemic, quite obviously. There are organizations like Letters Against Isolation or Love for Our Elders, which are letter writing campaigns where you write a letter and you get a pen pal and you write a letter to an elderly person who's isolated. Elder isolation and loneliness was epidemic. You know, was bad before, but is like so extreme now for so many elderly because they're terrified to leave their homes about COVID, have no visitors, have no human contact. And we know that that shortens your life. So they've created these kind of pen pal situations, or you can just write generic letters and donate them. So that's something that he can do on his own. You know, you can start if he's in political campaigns or he's really fired up about a political issue. He can start, he can do some online, he can create a survey online, he can create what's that called? When you get people's signatures to fight something, you know, you can do political action. Even if he can't vote because he's 16, he can become politically active absolutely. And his voice matters in these issues, right? You know, there are just a number of things he can, if he's at all creative, you know, he could create cards for hospitalized children. There's literally a charity called Cards for Hospitalized Kids where you draw cards and what, you know, well wishes, and they give you the whole thing and you send those off. Create care packages for our active duty military and our veterans. That is a huge area of concern. We really forget about the folks who serve our country all around the world who are away from their families and our veterans. And he can create care packages, he can write letters, he can become a pen pal, he can adopt a soldier, he can collect books, he can do collection drives, right? That's super solitary. You know, if he's interested in reading or if, sports equipment or gently used coats or any number of things, he can set up collection boxes. He can advertise those things at school or in other organizations in his faith community with posters. Then he can do the collections. Then he can coordinate with the organization and do the deliveries. That is really impactful. And then finally, I would say there's always fundraising, right? I'm not talking about writing a check or putting your own hand in your pocket at all. This is not about that. It doesn't matter what your socioeconomic situation is. I'm talking about starting a campaign of some kind. Maybe he's a runner. Maybe he just wants to do a walkathon. Maybe he wants to do a swim-a-thon, like whatever it is. There are ways you can do online, really through email and through other solicitations that are not face-to-face. He can do fundraising. And at the end of the day, hands-on surface is so important. But I think we also need to teach our teens and our young adults that monetary philanthropy is critical for these organizations to be able to function and to serve their clients. I mean, I totally get it. And you don't want to force a kid out of their comfort zone and then give them sort of a traumatizing experience. I understand that. So working in the soup kitchen or mentoring little kids, if that's not his thing, there is still something that he can offer 100%.
Natalie.
That was a good one.
I am so my head is like, oh my God, you're right. There's something to fit every single person, no matter who they are, what their interest is, and skill. So the next question, I know the answer, but I'm going to ask it anyway. How much time do you have to devote a week for it? What do you recommend to your kids? Do you say this amount, minimum, whatever?
No, I mean, listen, I don't think this, I disagree with these sort of arbitrary things, which is also why there's a chapter in my book that's called Don't Count the Hours, Make the Hours Count. Because there are many school programs, some public, mostly private schools, where teens are asked to fulfill a certain service requirement in order to.
Yes.
We all understand that. We understand the motivation behind it. And I start the chapter with a really thought-provoking, because again, I'm here to present this information to teens and let them, because I respect them. I think that they're smart and they're able to make their own decisions. So I share this information with them and say, these are the two sides of this argument, that this is sort of punitive and that we shouldn't force people to do things. And then the other side where I quote some teens that say, I was forced to do this service, and then I actually discovered an organization that I loved and I wanted to do this forward. So there's kind of two sides to the same coin. I would not put an arbitrary thing on this, like you must do an hour a week or whatever. I would say you find the thing that is the joy and this sweet spot integration of gifts, talents, skills, things they love to do with organizations that can use their talents and skills, that they connect to, that they enjoy the time that they spend there. If that's once a month, if that's once a week, if that's a couple of times a week, if that's once a quarter, I don't think it's, yes, if you have to check a box to make sure you get your hours. I don't want anyone thinking about getting their hours. If they find the thing they love, they will get the hours because they will want to get the hours. And so I would also just one other thing I would say, which is I do talk in my book about sort of more broadly defining service. I think that service has, many definitions. Community has many definitions. So our service starts at home, right? Our service starts in the way that we treat each other and our nuclear family and under our own roof. So I want to just suggest to you that teens do a lot of service. We call them chores, but we all contribute, because this is conceptually what I'm trying to get across here. By doing service in the community in whatever way we can, and even if that's only writing a check, but hopefully more of a, getting out there and doing the work, we are contributing to the civic good, to the public good, to the communal.
Yeah.
So in our home, when we pick up our garbage, when we take the garbage out, when we walk the dog, when we put our dishes in the dishwasher, when we do the things that are expected of us so that we can all live sort of happily and respectfully of each other, that is service. We start there. Then we talk about our neighbors. Then we talk about being kind and, maybe taking in our neighbor's garbage can. Or if you're already shoveling the snow, maybe you keep going a few feet and help your elderly neighbor with their sidewalk so they can get to the mailbox, right? Or you see that your neighbor's garbage can got knocked over and you go ahead and pick that up. You go out of your way to pick that up. Or you don't park your car in a way that it blocks your neighbor's driveway because they have to get out in the morning. That is service. That is kindness. That is keeping eyes, ears, hearts, and minds open to the needs of others, right? And so that's the mindset that I'd like everybody to approach this from. And then the next step, of course, is this sort of active, hands-on, out in the community, doing some hours, because that's where the really good stuff happens. But they should find the thing that they want to do, and then you won't have to worry about forcing them to do it.
Yeah. So do all three of your kids involved in different organizations?
Yes. I mean, listen, the pandemic was a tough situation, right? So much of the hands-on service kind of shut down the things that they've done with more regularity. My daughter is a runner, so she runs road races for charity. That is something that, so here she is. She's going to be running anyway, right? She's already running a half marathon.
Yeah.
Marathon. So now she's doing it for Parkinson's research, right? Because her father has Parkinson's disease. My son was involved in an organization for many years. Unfortunately, the project had to shut down. And here's an example. It was once a quarter. There was, he did birthday parties for children in a homeless shelter, in a domestic violence shelter. So these are kids who have escaped their homes with their mothers, and they're living in a place, Bronx. And so he and several other teens that he recruited would go and make a birthday party, such that all of the kids could come and celebrate everyone's birthday, no matter when everybody's birthday was. And they would sing a song, and they would decorate a banner, and they would have a cake, which he had to go out and solicit a donation of a cake. He did that from the time he was 12, when he was preparing for his bar mitzvah, all the way through until the pandemic shut it down. And he was personally in charge of one location, one homeless shelter. That was his place for the charity, the Celebrate You charity that he was a part of. And he did it, once in the fall, once in the winter, once in the spring. So he would do that. And it was his joy to do it. And he did it with friends, and it was fantastic. So yeah, I mean, to some extent, they all have these things that we do. And then we have traditions as a family. So weekend, I just want to remind everyone, because we're live, this weekend is September 11th. It's 21st anniversary of the terrorist attacks of September 11th in 2001. And what that has been designated as nationally is a National Day of Service. And a lot of people don't realize it. But if you go on 9/11, I believe it's 911day.org. It is a wonderful website that talks about all of the different ways that you can contribute to your community to honor and remember the lives lost on that day. So since we live in New York City, my oldest child was a few months old when that happened, and we lost friends that day. It is very important to me that we acknowledge that day in a meaningful way. So I take my kids to the local firehouse and we deliver cookies, or we, used to make cards, and we would go back year after year, and the cards that my kids made were still hanging on the bulletin board, like all faded on the thing, years and years and years later. But a local organization called De Road, which is a senior services organization, has a package delivery. So they have folks like me sign up. We go and pick up a package of treats and cookies and other, nice things and nice cards, and we deliver it to an elderly person who is part of their network. And we knock on the door, we call ahead, we deliver the package, we go through the bag, we chit chat, we look at photographs, we bring our dog sometimes. Like, this is something we do, and we do that with Dorot many different times during the year, during holidays and stuff. But we signed up on Sunday to do that. That's how we will begin our day of acknowledging that day of service. So this is not a big deal. This is going to take 45 minutes out of my day with my youngest daughter, who's the only one home. The other two are in college. So those are the types of things that, that's easy. And you just have to think ahead. I get the email about it. I click, I sign up, I mark my calendar, we go out and we do it. Yeah. And that's not a big deal. But these are the traditions, and these are the things that I hope my kids will remember when they get older. And there is research that shows that kids and teens who do this work with their families are much more likely to continue to volunteer as adults, and of course are more likely to do it with their own children. This is generational. This is setting this precedent. It's a role modeling of this type of behavior. So if I do it and I do it with my kids will do it. This has such ripple effects.
Yeah. And I'm glad you pointed that out. Yes, there's things that could be all day long. Sure. But there are things that are also like 30 minutes to an hour, and that's it.
Or how about your elderly neighbor had surgery, or not so elderly neighbor, somebody's not well, and you're going to the grocery store anyway. And so you call them up, or you leave them a note and say, can we pick up a couple of things? Or you bring them some soup. Like, this is what neighbors do. This is what kind people do. People have always done for each other. It's about being mindful. I'm on my way to the grocery store and I wonder, if Mrs. Smith next door needs anything. That's all it is. That's all. We're so siloed. We're so into ourselves. We're so on our own phones. It's just kind of taking like the next little step, because you're already going to the grocery store. I'm not telling you have to go out of your way to go to the grocery store. You're already going there. Right? Yeah,
it's just keeping your eyes open. Eyes open around. Right. So I can't believe the time has gone by. I love talking to you. I love what you're doing. This one mother wanted you just to know, I think she got your book, and that her daughter, her unique gift is she loves blowing glass. Wow. So she's 17, and what she's been doing for years with, you're thinking glass blowing, is she makes vases and takes them to different senior homes to put flower arrangements in.
That's amazing. How amazing is that? That's incredible.
Yeah, so there's always a way, and she loves doing it, and it makes her so happy to see these people thrilled with what she made, and
the joy. I'm also a crafty person. I crochet, I do all those things. The joy of hand making something and giving it to someone, the joy that brings. And I think the older generation really appreciates handmade things. So here she is, she gets to do something she loves to do, and she gets to practice, because glass blowing is probably a really hard craft to learn and to master. So she's practicing. It's probably not always perfect. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. No one's going to care. No one's going to be like, that's not perfect. And then she's doing some, instead of perhaps tossing those things or letting them pile up in her home, she's doing something really beautiful and sharing them with others who it's going to bring them so much joy. There's a statistic that says something like 70% of institutionalized, and that's a terrible word, but institutionalized elderly people in this country get zero visitors a year, meaning their immediate family is gone, or they're far away from immediate family. Everyone around them has passed away. If they're in their high 90s, most of their friends are probably gone or unable to visit. So imagine 70% of people in nursing homes have no one to visit them. So it's only the staff in the hospital. So if this young woman comes, and they're all in the common room, that is, and she gets out, chats them up. 45 minutes of her life, an hour of her life is nothing. It's everything. She's just made their day week, month, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's beautiful. And again, like just the thing that the kid loves to do, let her do it and let her feel so much better for having shared it.
Well, this one, okay, people, I want to get to you. You're going to have to reach out to Natalie. We're running out of time here, but this is another good one. This woman, her daughter's dance troupe goes to senior homes. And can you imagine? Yeah. Now, when I was younger, believe it or not, I took a different route. I would go, it was a little tougher, but they really appreciated it. I would go to mental health institutions and talk about cheering people up. And I say, seeing that, even when I was a young kid at night, just seeing that smile on their face.
Right.
I didn't know if I was going to make a huge difference, but I knew I could bring joy. So think of that, and their dance troops going into the senior homes too.
Right. And I will also suggest to the dance troupe, another idea is they could get a donation box. I interview a group of 2 girls who started a charity called Donate to Dance. And they are the largest dance organization in the country. And they put boxes, and they have ambassadors who do this work. You put boxes in the dance studios, and everyone puts in all of those wonderful things that their parents paid all that money for that they've now outgrown. Ballet slippers. And leotards and costumes from the big recital that are probably going to go in the garbage. You donate all of these things, and Donate to Dance helps you to find an organization in need in your community or elsewhere. They send costumes and tap shoes all over the planet to Africa and you name it. And that way you're paying it forward. Instead of throwing these things away, you are recycling them, keeping them out of the landfill, and giving them to girls who want to dance, who don't have the resources to do so. So here's, you know, I love that they go and they share their dance and their craft, but there's like a second thing that they could do, because we all know everybody, they outgrow these things so quickly.
Oh my God.
Let's donate them and make them bring joy to other people.
Yeah. All right, Natalie, before we go, I just want to make sure I get this in, because a lot of people are asking me about what is involved as you being the representative in New York for Doing Good Together.
Yes, and I encourage your listeners to go on their website. So it's doinggoodtogether.org, because it is a nonprofit. It's Minneapolis based. It's been around for probably 20 years. I reached out to the founder about 10 years ago because I was frustrated that I couldn't find family-friendly volunteer opportunities in my community, New York City. I thought there should be sort of a database of those, and I wanted to create one. And so I curate a listing of those, of family-friendly volunteer opportunities. It's about 10 to 15 every month, and it is pushed out to subscribers in New York City. So that's the 5 boroughs of New York, a little bit Long Island and Westchester. Since I started doing that work in New York City, as a volunteer, we've got maybe 10 other communities around the country that have someone like me who curates that sort of listing. If you're lucky enough to live in one of those towns, you can literally go on doinggoodtogether.org and you can subscribe. It's a constant contact thing. It just gets pushed out to your inbox once a month. It's free. They don't spam you. There's no advertisements. It's just all good information. And I love doing it. And everyone says to me, every organization that I highlight with opportunities says that they consistently get volunteers through this listing. And then the folks who use it. And and back to this, like, how do I find these places? People just get it in their inbox. They scroll through. They're like, oh, that looks like an interesting idea. It might be a specific event happening this week. Might be an organization that's just generally looking for help. And I just provide the information, and you click through to the organization's website and you sign up. That's all it is. So if any of your listeners are in New York City and have interest, they can reach out to me, Natalie at simpleactsguide.com, and I can add them to the listing, and they'll start getting it in their inbox today.
Woohoo! Oh my God, Natalie, you've made it so much fun. I scared my dog. My dog was he was like, what is Mom doing now? Anyhow.
And again, it sounds like you have a lot of great questions there, and people have specific, obviously everyone wants to know how to do it with their own kids. This is what I love it. I love people stumping me. I had a dad email me and say, or call me and say, my kid plays squash. What can I do with that? I'm like, okay, squash. I don't know. I love it. It's my joy to help people think that through a little bit.
Yeah.
And Natalie at simpleactsguide.com. My website is simpleactsguide.com, and you can connect with me there. And the books really do for younger families. The first book for the Family's Guide, and the teen book, they have resource guide. It's kind of listings, and all the links are all there. And so it's kind of packaged up really easy for you, and it's just handed to you.
I love it. I love the book. I haven't read the first one yet, but the second one, I love it. I love it even for me. I really do.
Someone said to me, "What's your next thing? Are you going to write this book for adults?" And I was like, adults should be able to figure this out, but okay, I don't know.
Really? I don't know. Listen, I say this all the time. We can go down a rabbit hole, and before we know it, we forget things that we are so easy to do. We get so busy, and before we know it, we think, I don't have time, and you just need a reminder, and then once you get the reminder, you need a resource to make it easy. So, all right, tell them again how they can find your book.
Sure. So my website is simpleactsguide.com. And on Instagram, that's kind of my primary way. I post a lot about organizations that I support and events that I'm being, involved in. So just follow me at simpleactsguide.
Cool. All right. Hey, I got something to say, people. Don't worry if you missed the episode. I am going to record it, and I will put it on all of the platforms. Natalie and I would be so grateful for you just to even share it with one person, rate it, like it, and make sure you reach out. And you know what I'm going to say. Until next time, toodles.
Bye, Sandy.
Bye, Natalie.
Thanks so much.